for the wonderful presentation, by the way. Thank you, Larry. It's really nice to be here. In fact, at my age, it's nice to be anywhere. My role today is doubly an honor. First of all, I've been asked to fill in for Governor Thompson, who proved to be a true friend of Illinois labor and the signer of what we might call the Magna Carta of public employees in Illinois. Secondly, what a great honor to be able to introduce Bob Gibson, my friend and a great union leader. Let me say a few words about both Bob and the governor. I remember meeting Governor Thompson and Bob in the early 80s. I remember a meeting with Governor Thompson and Bob in the early 80s. We had a discussion about the wisdom of passing a public employee collective bargaining law. Bob made an earnest appeal saying the time has come to give public employees the same rights as their counterparts in the private sector. The governor said, if you put the bill on my desk, I'll sign it. The collective bargaining bill was really the holy grail for AFSCME, the teachers' unions, and a few others who represented public employees. I must also say that not all of our union friends were particularly enthusiastic about the issue. It needed the strong support of the state AFL-CIO and key politicians. It was then that we turned to Bob Gibson, who rolled up his sleeves and used his powers of persuasion and his reputation in the legislature to lobby for the bill. To make a long story short, in 1983, public employee collective bargaining passed in Illinois. Governor James Thompson, a Republican, did what Democratic governors refused to do. He signed the bill into law. Because of the respect he had for Bob, he signed it at the state Fed office. Samuel Gompers said, we must support our friends and destroy our enemies. I remember meeting with the governor's opponent, who told me that he was going to win. And when he did, public employees were going to have to make some sacrifices in their paychecks. James Thompson proved to be our friend and earned the endorsement of AFSCME and several other unions. Just think, in less than 2 months, we will be faced with a governor who has vowed to take public employees on, force a strike, and in his way to make Illinois a right to work for less state. Now, as an aside, Governor Thompson would go down to the AFL-CIO winter meetings and with the AFL-CIO. While there, he would hobnob with the labor leaders, and then he would take about 7 or 8 of us to dinner. Around 1990, we were at dinner with Bob, the governor, and Bob, the governor, and I were overserved. With the governor in the middle, Bob and I on either side, we tried to talk him into becoming a Democrat. Seemed like a good idea at the time, and then we sobered up the next day. I first met Bob shortly after I became the executive director of AFSCME Illinois in 1980. Up until that time, we had very little participation in the state Fed. Bob said he wanted our union to be a more active participant in Illinois labor. He nominated me as a board member on the state Fed. The 80s were a good time for public employee organizing, and I'm convinced that much of that success was due to Bob's influence. So in appreciation, I'm glad to be here tonight to be part of the tribute to a great labor leader who has contributed so much to the history of Illinois labor. Bob believed that the labor movement's involvement doesn't stop at the door of the union hall. It has held numerous civic, governmental, and political posts, almost too numerous to mention, but I'll mention just a few. He was the vice chairman of the Madison County Democratic Organization, state president of the Young Democrats of Illinois, delegate or alternate to 4 national Democratic conventions. He was kicked out of the last one he attended think it was 1960, right, Bob? He was one of the 10 people selected by President Kennedy to represent the U.S. at the Young Leaders Conference in Germany in 1963. He was selected by the U.S. State Department as one of 4 young Americans to attend NATO strategy sessions in Italy in 1966. He was a member of the Illinois Trade Mission to the Far East, visiting labor leaders in Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Philippines, and Australia. He was a delegate to the White House Conference on Children and Youth. He presently serves as Illinois President of the USO, board member of the Mid-American chapter of the Red Cross, and finally, but certainly not the entire list, he is on the board of Goodwill Industries. And now, would you step up?
Thank you very much, Steve, for those kind words. I've known Steve Cullen for about 40 years. AFSCME wasn't a significant part of the state AFL-CIO at that time because they had an international president that was a little eccentric. We'll call him that. And we had a different director here about every 2 months. They would fire him or change him or whatever, but then Steve Cullen came along and he took charge. And he done, you've heard the numbers of what he done. He's a great man. Larry Spivak, President Trumka, members of the Illinois Historical Society. This is not my first meeting at your group. I was in a little better health at those meetings too, and a lot younger. But having just celebrated my 87th birthday, Cullen's glad to be here. I'm gladder. I can tell you the fight we had with Governor Thompson has been already identified, but we stopped right to work in Illinois. We had the biggest Labor Day parade down Michigan Avenue with Harold Washington as our leader. The largest we stopped right to work after it had come from committee. We stopped right to work in its tracks, and it hasn't surfaced since here in Illinois to be an issue. And that was an important issue in those days. I get disappointed sometime in our Democratic friends in Washington, who we've had Democratic friends in both houses and the White House, and never been able to beat 14B. I never quite understood how that worked, but it works with the lobbyists, the people there who donate to both sides, I think. And now, after the United Citizens decision, I'm not sure we can even keep up in that regard. We just have to outnumber them and make sure we vote. That's the important thing. Where was I? I just want to thank everybody for coming. This was a high honor for me. I wouldn't have missed it. I just talked to my friend and my neighbor in Florida. It's 80 degrees there. Just let you know the sacrifice I made. Okay. Thank you all for coming, and thank you very much for the suggestions on